Greetings. What's up? It's Deborah. Happy Friday to you. I'm so happy to be here with my uh, guest here, Andrew Davis, of Host Huski, and what was your other site?
Small dot.
Small dot. Okay. Sorry, I've been hearing a lot of dot phrases and I knew I was going to mess it up. So I'm glad you clarified for us.
No problem.
So we're here to add some incredible value. Andrew has been so generous and kind as to volunteer some of his time to share with us some pitfalls to avoid and some things to keep in mind when hiring a web developer, and just in general to understand about getting a really awesome website up and running. So thank you so much, Andrew, for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Well, I think the most important thing.
Before you start on the tech stuff, could you just tell us a little bit about how you got into this and, just a little bit about your background real quick?
Yeah, of course. So I really kind of just have always been interested in business and design. And so from a young age, I started making graphic designs, and eventually I started actually designing websites because I made myself a website, and then I had some of my clients say, "Oh, you do websites?" And I'm like, yes, I do. And so I started doing that. I actually started with what is now a very popular website builder called Wix. But eventually I moved away from Wix because it was expensive, and I also felt like there was something more flexible that I could use, and that's when I discovered WordPress. And so from then on, I used WordPress and just continued to teach myself the things I needed to know, and really tried to dig myself in as someone who could be knowledgeable about those different strategies. And that's kind of what brought me to where I am today. Is in the process, I had to learn about hosting and how to make that work. And I decided that I would create my own hosting company, which is what Host Huski is, because I didn't really like the other offerings that were out there. But kind of
which is what all of us entrepreneurs do, right? We don't like our hosting company, so we build our own.
Yeah.
You're being super modest here, Andrew, but that's okay. I'll let it slide this time. Go ahead.
Oh, what am I forgetting?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to say this hosting company sucks. It's another thing to create your own. That's not a small task. So
I can admit that's true. It took a lot of time, a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of late nights, to be honest. But it was worth it, because what we've been able to accomplish in only a couple years has been exactly what I've wanted for my clients and now my customers, because Host Huski was originally supposed to just be a brand for our clients of Small Dot, the people that we build the sites for and consult with. But at a certain point, I said, maybe we need to open this up to everybody, because I think we have something here that people need. And so Host Huski went public a couple years ago after I started. Public, not like stocks and stuff like that, but public as in open to the public. And from there, we've just been able to see a lot of positive feedback about how we do what we do with hosting. So,
wow, that's amazing. And I'm sorry, but I had to interject there because you're like, I mean, it's amazing to me whenever I hear people say that, oh, I didn't like that, so I just started my own company. And I know we all do that at some level as entrepreneurs, but I just admire when you can do that when there's so many other kind of like serious services that need to be interfaced with yours to make it work. Whereas when you're a coach or in personal development, you kind of can do your own thing to some extent. When you're having something like hosting, there's a lot of factors involved and a lot of people depending on that being constant and up and running perfectly. So
absolutely,
that's pretty amazing. Kudos to you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're trying really hard to make Host Huski not only just a website hosting company, but also a really valuable resource for business owners and startups. They'll just say, oh, like I can come to these guys for help. We're very customer centric at Host Huski, and we intend to stay that way. So Anyway, anything else I can talk about, answer for you? I really wanted you, since this is your show, I wanted you to be the lead, the boss, you know. So.
Oh, thank you. You're sweet. That's right. I have people to send you to so that you can tell them I'm the boss. No, I'm just kidding. So what I wanted to hear was like, because I often have people that I talk with or that are in our group, in our community, that are like, I need a website. I'm scared to even look at it. Or maybe like I have a WordPress site, or I have a Wix site or something, and I don't even know where to start, and I don't even know who to hire, because, you know, either I've been burned before, I've heard of friends of mine having been burned, I've spent a lot of money and I still don't know, like they did something, but I don't know what they did, and I don't like, so this is something that I think every entrepreneur when we get started has, especially nowadays where having a strong online presence is so critical now that everyone's not offline much. But being online, it still can be kind of scary to have like, how do I make this website right? How do I know who to pick to make the website right? So if you could just kind of maybe simply walk us through some basic things that, you know, people can know. And I know the PDF will have more in it. So, you know, they can, if you put PDF in the comments, by the way, if you're watching or listening, I already see one in there in the comments, but if you're interested in getting the PDF, just type PDF in the comments and I'll send it to you later on. So, yeah, just walk us through like some things like 101 of website setup and how to pick a web developer.
Sure. So I can't be here without putting a plug in for Huski, and backing that up with some real reasons. First of all, you can have an amazing website, but if you don't have the right host, you are at a disadvantage. I'll give a quick example. We had I was in a networking group, and I made friends with this guy that owned a cleanup company that goes in and does like meth remediation in a house or mold removal, like stuff like that, right? And he's like, yeah, and we always talk about marketing, because marketing is always, you know, this is how I get more customers, right? And so I was talking with him, and I was like, so what have you tried? Like, I wanted to really get to understand like what he felt was working, wasn't working. And he was like, yeah, I did SEO and it just didn't work. Like, they were doing all this stuff and I just didn't see any results. I'm like, I have a feeling I know what's going on. So we did a speed test on his site, which, by the way, was hosted on GoDaddy. So that was not a good start. And we found out his site loaded in 9 seconds. And I was like, I think that might be part of your problem, because you can have incredible website, you have incredible SEO, but if people are coming to your site and they're waiting for it to load, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
They're going to go. So we switched him to host Huski. His site loaded in 3 seconds just from switching. We didn't do anything else. We cut his load time into a third of what it was before.
Yeah.
And he got rid of the host. He got rid of the SEO company because he didn't think they were working. But I honestly think if he had kept them and switched to us before letting them go, I think he would have seen more results. So he's doing other things with his marketing now. But now that his website's actually able to load quickly enough, he's finding those results because we're on our phones, we're on our desktops. But the biggest share of people that are looking at websites is on a mobile device, right? And often people aren't connected to Wi-Fi. They're out and about, they're on their carrier's data signal. And so they're relying on however fast that goes. So if your site loads for 9 seconds on Wi-Fi, it's probably going to be about 12 to 14 seconds on just your phone's carrier data connection there, that 4G, 5G, 3G, whatever it is, what G you have. And that's bad. That's really bad. So one thing we try and solve is speed. You can have an ugly site, you can have a beautiful site, but if it does not load quick enough, no one's ever going to know because they're just going to leave. We don't have patience anymore. We're so instant gratification, scroll to see more, all of that kind of thing. We're so wired to be given more information just in an instant. And so we don't want to wait for a website to load even more than 4 seconds. I know that a lot of people will just leave. So anyway, Host Husky, we really try and put speed and performance of your hosting first. And that's a huge advantage. And I won't go into the other stuff quite yet because we're here talking about development. So I'm not going to manipulate the time further. With a developer, there is so much to it, but having hired developers, having been a developer, having worked in tandem with other developers, I have a lot to say on the subject, but I wanted to kind of condense it down to those main thoughts that are in that PDF. And you can plug that PDF now again if you and the idea is there is really like not every developer is created equal. Not every developer will work to be equal in quality and equal in return. The sign of a good developer is very similar to the sign of a good partner in your business, in your company, because a developer is there to be an expert, not just someone that you hand orders to and have them do what you want them to do. They're not someone that's there to save you time as much as they're there to save you grief and having to figure things out for yourself. And so I think part of finding good developers is also kind of part being a good client of theirs, being open to feedback, being open to being asked questions to get clarification, being open to truly collaborate and not just kind of send orders down the chute and expect them to be fulfilled exactly the way they are, because that can put you in a disadvantage. Yeah. Because the reason why you have that developer is generally because you don't know how to do what they do.
Exactly.
And so if you're like, yeah, I want it this way and I want you to do that, they might have a point where they want to say, well, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But if your expectation is for them to just do what you tell them, they're not going to bring up that concern, and you might actually disadvantage yourself at some point in the process. Yeah. Because they're more focused on making you happy than making you successful. And that's the mark of a good developer, is that they're interested in making your goals happen, not just your orders. And that's the first point. We're really looking at them asking those questions like, why do you want this? What does this accomplish? What's your goal? Because they may say, oh, well, have you thought about doing it this way? Like, have you thought about using this solution instead, because it'll save you time, it's free, and it's more customer friendly? And you're like, oh, no, I didn't. And if you have that aha moment and you feel really good about that suggestion, that should be a sign that you're working with someone that you can trust and that has your best interests at heart.
Yeah. Yeah, so. Definitely. I couldn't agree more, because often and that goes for hiring anyone really. If you can't have a really good collaborative conversation with them, you probably should not be hiring them. Like, exactly. It's something where you need to be able to co-create. In most cases in your business, you're going to need to co-create with whoever it is you hire. The exception being if you've already designed systems within your own process flow, you already have your SOPs and you're literally just training someone else to do it. Yep. But in most cases, that's not the case. We're talking for business owners, our expertise is our art or our coaching or whatever. It's not the web design. So we want to be able to have those collaborative conversations with people. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that in many different applications where people are like, well, I don't have the time. Just, this is your expertise. This is what you should do. But you said a few moments ago that it wasn't really about saving time. In the short term, that's accurate. But in the long term, you save a heck of a lot of time by having a couple extra conversations with your developer than you would if you wait and then it's like, 6 months later or 3 months later, you're like, what in the world happened? And it was because you didn't really have good communication at the beginning.
Exactly. Well, you told me to do this. Well, I didn't know it would do that. Well, I didn't want to tell you that because I didn't want to, they're just gonna trail off at that point. So exactly. It does save time in the long term. In the short term, it doesn't seem like it will, but in the long term, absolutely. And so, you know, how do we find this developer? How do we find this person that we can trust? Well, generally, I would say you have to look for, I think that our social circles are a great resource. If you know someone who knows someone, that could be a good start. Going to Upwork or Craigslist or something like that, probably not the greatest idea, because they are there to make money and to bring in as many relationships as they can. And when someone is looking at bringing in volume to something that should be more one-on-one and more personal and more long-term, generally that can be a little risky because it's designed to be a temporary engagement rather than something that's going to be like, okay, we're in this together. So I personally, I would not, and I've tried this. I'm not saying don't do this because I don't want you to. It's like, I've tried this. When I've looked for developers to add to my company, to be under my wing, to teach them what they need to do, I've tried Upwork, and that has not been great. Mostly because I've tried to find an intersection, and this is a mistake a lot of people make, myself included. I try to find an intersection between cheap and knowledgeable, experienced, and that really, it doesn't exist as often as we'd like it to. I think one of the best bets we can have is working with someone who speaks their native language and fluently and natively. We can find so many people overseas that are skilled at what they do and can speak our language for the most part. And they're brilliant and they're intelligent and they're capable. But the problem is, more often than not, without any ill will on their part, they really are aiming to make us happy. They're really aiming to get the job done as quickly as they can, but they're not aiming to get the job done right. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they don't care, is that they care more about maintaining that relationship with you, and they don't really think about the consequences of doing something quickly, because they feel like it's more important to get it done quickly so that you can be happy with them, so that they can get paid, so they can go on to the next task, than it is for them to take extra time and really kind of work through things. And that's another point that I talk about in that PDF. If they're not checking their work before they give it to you, if there's errors or bugs or anything that comes up, that's a sign they're probably not going to be someone you're going to want to work with for a while. Yeah. Because a good developer is going to check through everything that they've done to make sure that it doesn't screw you up. They're going to make sure that their math is correct, that you're going to add something to the cart and 10 plus 10 is 20, not 36. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times we've seen bizarre math errors that should be, very quickly caught. So just those silly mistakes, those oversights, they really speak to where the priority is for the developer. And again, I'm not trying to poo-poo developers that make those things, happen in your experience with them. And it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that they may not be a good long-term solution. Because sometimes in a fix, we just need someone to get it done, and we need to get it done quick, and we're okay picking up the pieces along the way. Sometimes that's just how you do business, because you're interested in launching something faster than you are getting all all of the components together that makes it long-term successful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I just say that if you're having to go to your developer and say, well, wait a minute, there's something wrong here, there's a bug here, I'm sorry, 2 plus 2 does not equal 6. If you're catching these things, you're just like, what happened to this? Where did that go? If there's more problems you're finding from them trying to solve one problem and they're creating like 7 others, it's probably a sign they're not going to be a good long-term solution for you. Instead, you want to look for someone that's asking those questions. You want to look for someone who is checking their work and making sure that when they give it to you, you're not going to point at something and say, well, what happened there? They're really showing the fact that they're not only interested in your money and your approval, but they're also interested in the core success of what you are trying to build with them. They're invested in that thing that they're building and not just you, because they're so there's two parties to the experience you're building with your site. You and what you want, but your customers, your visitors, your users, your members. If they don't like what you've got going on, it doesn't matter how much you sell it, doesn't matter how much time and idea you put into it. If it doesn't meet their fancy, you're not going to find a lot of success with that. So that developer is going to help and make sure that they're really advocating for that user, that they're really advocating for someone to go in and say, yes, like this makes navigating your site easier. This makes taking action easier, more natural. I don't feel pressured. I feel invited. There's so much psychology that goes into the design of websites, and we can talk about that. But that developer is there to ensure that the gate is open and it's easy to get through.
I would think even just what you're saying now, just like even just having the conversation of like, okay, you may not have thought of this, Mr. Business Owner, but you know, this is a possible way that you can actually attract in more of your kind of client. If I understand a little bit better what your overall sales cycle is, or your overall, you know, customer experience is, I might be able to incorporate some of that into my design so that it's something that actually is complementary for your business. And, you know, someone who's actually like, what's not forthcoming, but like volunteering to do a little bit of education just to kind of help you maybe expand your view, then you know that person is truly an expert because they're going beyond what you're even asking. Because you may not know to ask that. But it might be like, okay, when you said this, it made me think of this. Did you know that there's a little bit of psychology that goes into your homepage? And, you know, maybe if you give me a couple ideas as to how your customer journey is, I can help direct how they move through the page to sync with that, right? So it's like someone who's an educator as well as a performer would be, to me, a world-class person to be working with, because now I know that they're not just going to, you know, try to be like an extension of my arm, but actually, you know, helping to guide and show me what more I might not even have known about.
Well, and I'll share a secret with you, and it's not so much a secret as something that a lot of people don't realize. So I guess that could be a secret. I have a philosophy, and it has not failed me yet. The person that designs your site should not be the person developing it. The person that develops your site should not be the person designing it. Those should be two different people. And here's why. Normally, developers are focused on solving a problem. They're focused on adding something that the site can do, you know, and that is new. A designer is going to be that one that thinks through the strategy, that thinks through. And I might have misled you because I talked a little bit about that strategy, ecology, and design while we were talking about development, and so that's on me. But yeah, usually you will find that web developers make sucky designers, and you will also find that web designers make sucky developers. There's absolutely needs to be a division of those skills, because then they can flourish in that affinity that they have in their craft. And a good designer and a good developer you'll find that they will work very well together, because the developer will be focused on taking what that person designed and making it happen. And the designer will be focused on making sure that what they design will be broken down into components and instructions and parts that the developer can take and make happen as well.
Okay, I have a question.
You don't have to raise your hand. You're the host.
Well, okay, so Mr. Andrew Davis, with all of your, now we have separate people. I had to get a designer and a web developer.
Yeah, and
now it's starting to sound like this whole staff that I need to have just to get a website.
I know.
And I'm a solopreneur, and I don't have a lot of time or expertise and energy to be picking all these people. What do I do? Give me do I even need a web developer or designer at all? Can I just get like something like Elementor and get a really good page builder and just go to town on my own WordPress sites?
That's a great question. First of all, Elementor and Visual Composer are dirty words in our company. So just so you know, we are.
I thought we were friends. I have to rethink this now.
Oh no, we are a very devout Divi-based company, because it's user friendly, and we find that people are really able to understand how it works without all the crazy bells and whistles. Divi is designed in such a way that you have layers, right? And the top layer is very easy to understand and work with. And then if you go deeper, it's a little more complicated, but you can do more. Elementor is just like, here's Photoshop, now do whatever you want. And that doesn't work for a lot of people because there's so many things going on there that they have to learn. They have to understand the relationship of the tools to what they're looking at and building. And we just have found Divi to be a really good solution. So I am absolutely going to plug Divi because we have used it on, I would say at least 50 different sites in our lifetime, if not like 100. We make so many sites, I lose count. But it's easy for us to use, and it's easy for the client to use and manage. So P.S. we give Divi to people for free when they sign up for Host Husky. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But also they have tons of ready-built templates and stuff. So I like to say don't use a template because it's not you. It's not authentic. It's not original. It's not your brand. You're borrowing someone else's idea to try and represent yours as if it was yours, and that's not great for a brand to do. But if you need to do that to start out, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't make that your long-term solution. Just like someone who thinks 2 + 2 is 6 in their code. Could work for like a month, but get away from it. So anyway, that's a great question. Design, development, which one, both, neither, how, same person, what? I say a web developer is going to be useful in finding ways to technically make your website better. And I say technically as in literally technically, through the code, through the performance, through how everything operates under the hood. They're going to be that mechanic that's going to fine-tune things, right? A web designer is going to use the tools available, and they're going to say, okay, well, we should do this because the user is going to see this. It's all about what you see, how you interact with it. It's definitely a lot more on the strategy side that's going to be very, very close to touching marketing because it's all about that psychology. It's about the aesthetic. It's all about these more emotional type of things. A user doesn't really care how efficient your site is as long as it loads quickly and doesn't take forever for them to process a transaction. But for design, if they look at it and it feels like it was made in 2006, they're probably going to doubt your efficacy as a brand because they're not going to feel like you're really, modern and up to speed with how things are. Yeah. Web designer should be there to help you take care of that. They're going to be there to uplift your image. So if you need to start somewhere, start with a web designer. And then as you continue on, you can get a web developer. We probably should have prefaced this entire conversation with that. As I mentioned to you in the beginning, I'm very new to the whole guest talking on a live thing. So
no, you're doing great. You're doing great. And
that's good. Frankly, I appreciate that.
It was just like, because we were talking and then it just came up to me as a question because I'm like, I know that's going to be a lot of some of my audience is going to be like, well, I'm a solopreneur. I'm just trying to keep it simple. And it sounds like the very first step, even before a web designer, is just to have some pretty awesome hosting, hint, nudge, nudge, with some free page builder that's easy to set up so that if I have to get a couple landing pages up just so I can have an opt-in and so somebody can actually become a part of my community, right? That I can do that with some awesome hosting and nothing more. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's fair because there's so much you can do on your own. You can be your own web designer, and I wouldn't really recommend being your own web developer for reasons we've discussed. Yes. But you can be your own web designer. I mean, again, everyone's on a spectrum. There can be a really great web designer who's way better than this other one, and then there's someone even better than them on the other side. But all in all, the important thing is not to be afraid, not to be intimidated, just start. Because having something up is better than not having anything else at all. I've heard from so many of our clients when they start out with us, as they're talking with us about what they want to do, they're like, yeah, people are always asking me, like, do you have a website? And I always have to say, no, I don't. I'm thinking about it. And I just say, hey, it's okay. Let's get you going. Let's get you started. Let's work on that because people expect a reputable business to have a website. Doesn't even matter if they're not even selling anything or if there's nothing for them to really consume on that site.
Yeah.
They expect there to be some way to find them online somehow, even if it's just a picture of their face with a phone number. It doesn't matter. They expect there to be some sort of an online presence. And so if you can get started, if you can overcome those, solopreneur, I'm just starting out, oh no, what if they don't like it kind of jitters, you really do have an advantage when you have a website up. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we could have called this video "End the Website Shame" because it's really about just getting out of shame about either not having a website or barely having a website, and starting with where you are. I mean, you started with Wix, right? So I was like, you've come a long ways from where you started, and it's okay. Like, you just built as you went. And so, like, I guess maybe the hint that I would throw in there is just to say, like, don't worry about where you're starting. Just get started.
Yeah.
And don't need it to be perfect. It doesn't have to look like a Pepsi website. It just needs to be like functional enough for people to say, okay, they actually have a website presence. And then as you go, as you build your business, as you are able to get more testimonials or whatever it might be, then you can start to build and add on to your website.
Exactly. And my philosophy has always been, and this is how I built my companies, anyway, Small Dot and Huski. You start small, find something they're able to offer, and find the most efficient, cost-effective way to do it. Because the more you spend on something, unless you know for a fact you're going to profit, the more catching up you have to do until you are able to break even. And so these big platforms like Wix or Shopify, and just a quick side note, I was on Wix when it was Flash. Okay, Flash, not HTML like it is now. Flash. Okay.
I didn't even know about that. But okay.
Yeah, Wix. So Wix is really just super quick. This is really interesting. Wix is an Israeli company. They used to have this weird little star mascot that had like eyes and a smile. It was like yellow, and it was like, what? But that's what Wix was.
I remember that.
You remember that? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
And so they were only Flash for a while, and I was around when they were like, "Hey, we're catching up. We're about to release the HTML beta," and it was terrible, but it was something, right? Because there's so many people that couldn't see your site if they're on their phone, and now no one can see your site if they're on their phone because Flash is a bad word since Apple outlawed it so many years ago. But yes, I was on Wix when it was Flash, so I don't want anyone to think I was on Wix like last year. I was on Wix back in like 2000 something, before 2010. So anyway, these platforms where they want you to spend a ton of money every month to use their software, really, really quick, like crash course in these platforms. If you use someone else's platform to build your site, if you use someone else's platform to build your site, you do not own your site, because they can pull the plug anytime you don't pay your bill, and you lose everything. And if you don't lose everything, they will have you pay a hefty fee to get it back. So we always tell people, hey, you can use Shopify, you can use Wix, you can use Squarespace, but if you want to own your site, if you want it to be your property, you need to use WordPress.
Yeah.
WordPress itself is actually free. If you wanted to build a server in your living room, heaven forbid you do that, the energy bill would be astronomical. You could have everything under your own roof, literally. Your site would be under your roof, and you would not have to pay anyone anything except for the electricity company, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not telling anyone to go out and build their own server. I don't do that. That's a scary thing. Our servers are in the cloud. Just side note there. So I say, like, start out with something you own, because the time you put into it, the thought you put into it, you need to be able to know that you can take that and hold on to that and not have to start over if you grow. We're always looking at the long-term idea. We don't want anyone to have to start over. I had to start over. I was in Wix, right? I had to build everything all over again because I couldn't just take my Wix site and move it to someone's hosting. I had to just rethink everything, and maybe I could copy and paste the text, but the design, all of that, gone. right? So we want people to start on the right foot. That's why we always recommend WordPress. You overcome those jitters, you get started, you start small. A landing page, great. Whatever it is, just get yourself out there. And we always say, you know, you don't need to spend tons and tons of money on something because people are telling you to do that. If you've got an idea for a product, but you're not ready to sell it yet, create a Facebook page, right? You don't need a website if you're not selling it yet. Only invest in things that are going to bring that return on investment. So with our hosting, we try and give as much as we can to the customer. Divi Page Builder, which is a premium product from Elegant Themes. It costs about $90 to $250 a year to have, or no, $90 a year, $250 lifetime, but that's beside the point. We give them that free. We actually got their permission to do that because we have to provide support for it, which is fine. But we're trying to give people that opportunity to take their business by the reins and say, okay, I'm in control. I'm going to decide what this is. Yeah. And they can go in and they build it, and they only pay the cost of hosting. They're not paying some platform a premium for something they can't even keep for the long haul. So that was a very long-winded way to say, start small, build small, invest small, and when you are able to start seeing revenue come back to you, then you can start to maybe invest a little bit more. You want to get a good head start, talk to an agency like us. We can give you guidance and advice and suggestions. We can look at your situation. We can say, you don't want a website with us right now because it's going to take you 3 years to make money.
Okay. Now we're hitting gold. So can you tell the audience how, if they wanted to get this insight from you, I think you have an offer for them that they can get from you. So tell them how they can do that, because I'm sure for those of us like me, our eyes are starting to glaze over by now. And you're,
I know.
Excited. They're getting like
long-winded sometimes. But I mean well.
You're passionate about it, and
I am, because I mean, I've made my career trying to help people understand how to get their business started on the right foot. And so I sit down with people sometimes for hours and just talk about what they're trying to accomplish and try and give them that advice and suggestion. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of the time I give them a lot more like stuff to take home and do something with than they're actually like giving me back, like in consulting fee or whatever it is. But the idea for your viewers, Deborah, is this. I want to get a chance to talk with people, learn about their business. I want a chance to find out how I can provide value. And so I normally do like a 30-minute consultation for about $50. But in an interest to kind of really show that my desire to help and to give that exclusive kind of incentive for people that are watching this, I'm willing to actually take a half off of that fee and do a 30-minute consultation for $25, which is half of 50. Yeah. See, there's the math, but that's my brain, not the code, so it doesn't count. So in that 30 minutes for that 25, we'll go through your site or we'll go through your business and we'll talk about what you are trying to do. I wrote all those things in that PDF because those are how I conduct business, and I've seen results and return on investment for the people I work with. I ask those questions. I invest myself in what you are trying to accomplish, because if I'm not interested, invested, or really given that awareness and context for what you're trying to do, there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to help you. I'm sorry, there just isn't. I have to be invested almost as much as you are before I'm going to be a viable person to assist you in that business. So we talk about that. We talk through it. What's your short-term goal? What are you trying to do? What's the pain right now? Like, are you trying to find customers? You have customers, but you're trying to lower your costs? Like, what is the objective? And if I can provide value and advice, services, products, whatever that are able to get you to that goal, then I bring that up and we talk about it. We discuss the pricing. If it's just the hosting, you want your site faster and you've got everything else figured out, great. We've got a coupon for that too. If you want to switch hosting and you don't care about anything else I have to say, we have got a coupon for people, and we'll put that in the comments, where you can get 50% off your first month. of Host Husky Hosting. We also migrate your site from your old host to us for free. We do all inbound migrations for free for sites up to a gig. We really want to show people.
You are dropping so much gold and so much value, and I'm so grateful for this. I know I really want to highlight this because I know some people will not be able to probably go through the whole conversation. So I'm probably going to highlight this section that you just said, because I really want people to understand that you are here to help them and to add value to them, and not just to, quote unquote, get more business at all costs, but really more so about giving them the proper service. And that's what I'm all about. And that's why we're here having this conversation. So super grateful. That's huge value. I mean, even at $50, it's a steal to be able to have that input from you. So, because it's not every day that you find people who are as willing and as open to be able to educate as much as to provide the service itself. Most people are not willing or able to do as good a job as you've done here for us for free. So I am so grateful for you, Andrew, and for you taking the time out of your schedule to be here and to give us so much value. Thank you so much.
Of course. And thank you for the opportunity to share my knowledge and my boundless passion and ramblings with you. I hope people were able to glean something useful from all of this. I always welcome people to ask questions, to get in touch. So if you've got some favorites, and I won't tell anyone, that you want to give some extra help to, you can always send them my way.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been an honor. And I am really looking forward to, I'm going to go check out some of your stuff as well on your website.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to wrap up for today, but I know that Andrew will, if you tag him, he will definitely answer any questions that you have in the comments, because I know he's there for that. But the best way to get a hold of him will be to go to his website. And so we'll put that link in the comments for you to get a hold of him, and you can go and chat with his team there. So thanks so much again, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much.
All righty. We'll sign off for now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.